Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, broadcasting from my hidden base at the center of the Earth, and I stand before you today because I have a leak from my Hollywood spies about the recent rumors of an alleged reboot of Star Wars. Is this really being considered, and what does it mean? Is it time to freak out and get furious? The answer is yes, my friends, but not for the reasons you believe. Folks, I get a lot of rumors that I don't report for various reasons. Sometimes I'm skeptical, sometimes I get conflicting rumors and so they cancel each other out. Sometimes I sit on them, waiting for some other information to surface in an article, in another leak, that supports the rumor at hand. Well, I didn't have to wait long for confirmation of this rumor to surface. In this case, it took only a day or so, and I think the first canary in the coal mine to drop was Matthew Vaughn talking about Star Wars. On a podcast called Happy, Sad, Confused, Matthew Vaughn was asked whether he'd ever have any interest in working on a Star Wars movie. Vaughn replied, quote, "Yeah, now not so much." The podcast host said, "It's been tainted a little bit," and Vaughn quickly asserted, "It's not been tainted, and I'm not going to go there. I would say for me doing a Star Wars movie is to play with the characters that I loved. So if they said to me, we'll reboot, do you want to reboot Star Wars and actually have Luke Skywalker, Solo, and Vader, and you do your version of it? Everyone would say you're an idiot to try, but that would excite me. Why are these characters so hallowed that from 77 you can't redo it for a new audience, and that's the story," unquote. Vaughn then correctly asserts, quote, "Star Wars is the Skywalker family, and that's where I think they've gone wrong, because they forgot that. They've done brilliantly on TV, but it needs an epic new film, and that's what I would do. I would go right. Everyone's going to go batshit crazy, but let's bring it on, because if you want a new generation, make the movie for them. The old generation can hopefully make it well enough that they go, okay, I'm enjoying it," unquote. Later, after getting a lot of heat, Matthew Vaughn claimed while talking to Screen Rant that he was just joking on the podcast and clarified his comments, quote, "Now, if someone asked me, what would you do? For me to get back into the world of somebody else's characters and other franchises, I was joking. I said this as a joke, but no, yeah, maybe I would do it. If they wanted to reboot Star Wars, set the story with the Skywalkers, and then I'll go, hey, that'll be interesting. Because for me, it's got to be something so bold, so different, and so brave. They said you can't do that. I was like, there have been 3 Spider-Mans, Bonds. Like, what are you talking about? Why can't that happen?" Unquote. Folks, according to my sources, none of this is accidental. All this talk of rebooting Star Wars is coming from Disney itself. On October 21st, I received a message from my Hollywood spies about what's going on with Star Wars. At this point, I must state that what I'm about to tell you is information provided to me by my Hollywood spies, but since I cannot personally confirm any of it, I am presenting it as unverified rumor, and I ask you to please take it with a grain of salt. So you want to know what's really going on here? Here's what I was told. Quote, "Before I get into this, let's go over a few things that we are about to discuss is not guaranteed, but it is good news. Also, we are still working on this. As we understand it, very soon there are going to be leaks and rumors that Disney is planning to recast Luke, Leia, and Han. This will not be a leak. This will be a trial balloon to see what kind of reaction it receives. Now let's go over the details we have been told about the recast. Luke. As we understand it, there are 4 people who are now being considered. Han. 5 people are being considered. Leia. 3 people are being considered. One particular rumor is Carrie Fisher's daughter. Also, you are going to start to see a lot of what-ifs and other stories coming out, one of which we sent you on Darth Talon. We believe this is just the beginning. So the current situation with Star Wars is Ahsoka was a flop. Dave Filoni's future is in question. the likelihood of his universe continuing long-term is iffy at best. So what about Jon Favreau? While we do have information on what he's up to, we have been sworn to secrecy. We can tell you he is on set in Georgia and he is working on Mandalorian's next season, and that is all we can say for now, unquote.
So all of this is not leaked, it's a trial balloon, eh? Basically, this is Disney doing its own kind of psyops, preparing whatever Star Wars fans remain for big changes, or using fake leaks as marketing research to see what they can get away with.
That is exactly the case, Harvey Cthulhu. And we've seen this kind of shit before. The last time this kind of situation occurred, it was with Indiana Jones 5. At the time, Steven Spielberg was quoted as saying in a little article hardly anyone noticed that maybe it was time to go ahead and have a woman be Indiana Jones. At the time, I made a video about this titled Indiana Jones, in which I sounded the alarm about this possibility. Now bear in mind, this was not just some goober off the street shooting his mouth off in a chat room somewhere or a podcast from his granny's basement. This was Steven fucking Spielberg. And yet at the time, I was mocked for releasing clickbait and told that this was all a bunch of nonsense. To which I replied, this is one of two things. It's either actually being considered, or it's a trial balloon launched by the woke wankers of Hollywood to see just how much cultural vandalism they can get away with. And lo and behold, it took a number of years and the best efforts of Kathleen Kennedy, Disney almost got away with it. They almost erased Indy from history by going back in time, killing young Indy off, and then having Fleabag take his hat and whip, retrace his steps from the beginning of his career, and become Indiana Jones moving forward, including on a new TV show on Disney+. And yet, once again, Doomcock interceded because Indiana Jones is one of my childhood heroes, and I was going to let this happen without a fight. Once again, liars, fakes, and the terminally jealous mocked me for claiming the plot was about time travel, and yet once again, hashtag Doomcock was right. Why am I rehashing this, other than the fact that I'm a supervillain and I love rubbing the fact that I was repeatedly right in the faces of all my terminally jealous detractors and posers, because I am, after all, a supervillain who indulges in a modicum of revenge every now and then, but also because I'm urging you all to get pissed off right now at any mention of recasting and remaking Star Wars. Folks, I repeat what my spies said here, quote, as we understand it, very soon there are going to be leaks/rumors that Disney is planning to recast Luke, Leia, and Han. This will not be a leak, this will be a trial balloon to see what kind of reaction it receives, unquote. When I did my prophetic Indiana Jones video and took flack for it, my reply to the criticism was simple. If this is a trial balloon, it is vitally important that you take it seriously and react to it strongly, forcefully, and with furious anger, because that's what a trial balloon is, folks. They want to see what they can get away with. And if they use various spokespeople and articles seeded all over the internet to gauge fan reaction, and they aren't met with a great deal of anger and pushback, then they interpret that as a green light, just like they did for Indiana Jones 5. Right now, folks, they're scared to pull this shit because it's risky as fuck, and Disney has lost every risk they've taken over the last few years. But as the leak said, Ahsoka was as much a sucker as it was a woka, and it was a failure, both in terms of quality, it was boring as fuck and bordered on incompetent, frankly, and in terms of actual ratings. In the end, it was beaten out in the ratings by Andor, which was not regarded as all that much of a success either, despite being far superior to Ahsoka. So at this point, Disney is feeling desperation in abundance. Like the hounds of hell immortalized by Vincent Price in Thriller, Nelson Peltz dogs the steps of Bob Iger, ready to pounce at the first sign of weakness. Disney stock has been in the toilet and only rose for the very reason that Nelson Peltz is signaling he's coming for seats on the Disney board and Iger's job as CEO, and this pleases the market because Peltz is a for-profit kind of guy. And the market was filled with hope that Disney may someday return to being a for-profit company instead of a wholly owned subsidiary of GLAAD, spreading LGBTQIA MOUSE propaganda at the end of every rainbow. So Disney is flailing around, trying to find something, anything, that can successfully revitalize Star Wars, given that Ahsoka utterly failed to do so. And as we all know, Disney loves nothing better than to reboot and remake and bend, fold, spindle, and mutilate everything they own. And sadly, they own Star Wars now, but they don't own our memories. And so, as my Hollywood Spies predicted back on October 21st, Disney is hitting us with all of these articles about rebooting Star Wars. They've somehow convinced Matthew Vaughn to float this trial balloon out there, and more will be coming in the near future, folks. More will be coming. And it's vitally important that we not give these assholes a green light via our silence. Remember, it was fan outrage that spread like wildfire after I exposed the plot to kill Indiana Jones off in the past and replace him with Fleabag that made Disney back away from that, even going so far as to delay releasing Indy 5 for a full year, while they did reshoot after reshoot trying desperately to undo the mistake they had done. It can be averted, my friends, but only if enough people make enough noise to give Disney pause and send those verminous vultures away to circle some other property that they can turn to vulture shit with less trouble. So even if you're fed up with Star Wars as I am at this point, for the sake of all pop culture, we must resist any further attempts to reboot anything. We are winning this war to save pop culture, but the war itself goes on. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.